No, it's not those.
You don't believe me?
Yeah. Get the state to prove it. What I have my neighbor.
I thought that the baby was never got stuck. Where's the one time we all that love you?
No, it looks like it's a short woman.
I guess. One time I was out and I got stuck in the right in the
Let's say,
and I
yeah.
smell the parents have been on my room. And I thought about going out yellow jackets and the bumps.
Yeah. Temporary.
Thank you. Yeah. So that one might be the way to go. You bet your sweet pie. What's today's date? The 11th. 2023, Doug.
I'm thinking if you're there, you'd
I have to talk with you before you leave.
You gonna talk to Doug or you gonna talk to?
You want to get on my dad's?
No, I don't want to be on the bad side.
You better just stop.
Coming up on 5. We're coming up on 5:30.
I'm David. How are well, I've got a buddy. You'll be down at the road, that's fine.
I just love it.
I've done it. I came out here a few months ago about the shoreline ditch. I missed that, I guess. So we don't have a shoreline ditch?
Let's go ahead and get started. I don't know if I'm being, can you hear me? Okay. Go ahead and establish a quorum. We've got Mr. Morris.
Put the speaker to your mouth more, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Magnus, Mr. Morris, and Mr. Wallace, and the chairperson, Judge Cunningham, is here. We've got a public comment period. Anybody want to speak? I think we've had one person sign in. Would you state your name?
My name is Joe Darwin. I live at 10751 State Highway 34. I do have with my mailbox that I tried to give you the last time. Anyway, I want to make the statement for the record. If you please take notes on this, ma'am. The record is going to stand that I, Joe A. Darwin, do not want to be annexed by the city of Ladonia. I'm letting everyone know. And I do, in the past, the present, or the future, want to be annexed by any entity at all. I want that on the record. Thank you very much.
I have no intent to annex this evening.
I know, but I'm just putting it on the record.
Okay, that's on the record. I think I need to have everybody take a look at the minutes from the April 10th, 2023 regular meeting. Discussion, consideration, and action to approve. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, can I, are there any questions?
I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes from April 10th, 2023 regular meeting.
Commissioner Magnus has made a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Wallace has made a second. All those in favor say aye, all those opposed say nay. Commissioner Magnus?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Morris? Chair says aye. The motion passes. Next agenda item is discussion regarding zoning of the unzoned area around the Ralph Hall shoreline. I want to choose my words very carefully. I thought about this for a while.
It's still kind of hard to hear you.
I need to choose my words very carefully. I thought about this for a while, and I think it's difficult to say it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's my opinion that the county, Fannin County, does not have a working relationship with the Upper Trinity. That's a very difficult thing to say.
Well, it's
Now,
about
the
time.
question is, what are we going to do about it? We'll notice something. We're not getting information. Well, we have a right to zone to the shoreline. We're going to zone to the shoreline, and if Upper Trinity wants to do anything, they can come and talk to us. And they're going to have to present material that will cause us to decide that what they want to do is appropriate. I'm tired of asking them to assure us that we're going to have private talks. I'm tired of asking them to tell me who owns the property. The legislature has given us the power, Fannin County, to control development around this lake. That power wasn't given to the Upper Trinity. Now, all that aside, I'm looking at possible zoning. I think we're going to zone everything that's in the lake area. I guess it was called Diane, what was that?
Lake
particular zone?
operations.
Lake what?
Hello, lake operations.
Lake operations. Would you read us some of the things that their
That
proposed
might-
zoning regulation indicated would go on in the lake operation zone?
That mic isn't on.
Check out my glasses. The lake operations area will allow the special use permit hospitals, chronic care, permits hotels, lake recreation enterprise, lake Ralph Hall related construction activities, utilities and operations, libraries, marina, medical
We
clinic.
can't hear,
We can't hear a thing.
we can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'll try this. It allows motels, motor hotel, or a tourist court. Lake operations also allows office, professional, medical, or business. That is also allowed in Lake, Bodot Lake. Outside displays, parks, playgrounds, or community center. Pre-existing use. Private utility other than listed. Public buildings. Special use permit for restaurants, cafeteria, with or without curb or drive side in service. It allows restaurants or cafeteria without curb or drive-in service. Services to be entirely in the building. Retail stores and shops. With a special use permit, it is allowed an RV park. You're permitted to have school, private schools, public schools. Special use permit for a temporary building for new construction. You're allowed towers, antennas, TV, radio, microwave, telephone, or cellular. is permitted to have utility distribution transmission line, wedding chapels, reception facility, special event center. Bed and breakfast, camping grounds, church, other place of worship. Special use permit also allows a concrete asphalt batching plant, temporary. Electronic power substations, gas or oil well operation. Special use permit allows a golf course and heliport and helistop.
What was the last part?
Heliport and helistop.
That's a lot of lake operation. It's a lot, when we visited with Freezing Nichols, we communicated to them that we wanted something similar to what's going on at Bodart Lake. You go up to Bodart Lake, the lake operations centers are dams and pumps, maintenance facilities. Not a colony inside Fannin County controlled by the Metroplex.
Thank you.
I need to be careful about what I say. I think we go ahead. I propose that we zone it as agriculture, which is the most restricted zoning. If they want to put in a hotel, they can come and talk to us about it. If they want to put in a heliport, they can come and talk to us about it. If they don't want to put in private docks, they can come and talk to us about it. I'm not going to sit back and have, if we had zoned this last time, we would have given up a bunch of county rights. I don't know why there was such a disconnect. I think the lesson we learned, next time we hire a consultant to help us zone something, we need to be the one paying the bill.
Yes.
I was very disappointed when, after we zoned to prevent RV parks and that sort of thing going in, or junkyards, to cut off people grandfathering in, that I was told that Freezing Nichols was done. This was our zoning package. To me, that's unacceptable. I would hope to reestablish a working relationship with Upper Trinity. Right now, I don't have much confidence that that's going to occur. Extend a hand, but you're going to have to shoot straight with. And, Mr. Daly, I understand you're the messenger. You're not the Upper Trinity Board of Directors. But I would hope that you would convey them how disappointed this county judge is and the way we've been treated so far in our relationship. Not good. Not good at all. And I'm busy. Fortunately, we've had time to go over this stuff. Fortunately, we just didn't zone it lake operations. All that said, this is an action item. We're going to have discussion. Also, item number 5, discussion regarding harmonizing remote Ralph Hall and Bodart Lake building regulations. There are things in
We can't hear.
There are things in the Lake Ralph Hall zoning regulations that impact development. They don't comport with some of the county's established rules regarding environmental. There are limitations that are way beyond that are in effect in the zoning area around Bodart Lake. I would ask Ms. Hopkins to come up again. She's our development director, and talk a little bit about some of those variances that restrict development around the lake.
So I would like to start with section 5, development regulations, 5.01, on-site sewage facilities, OSSFs. This is new and has been added additional to what Bodart Lake has. The regulations call for, what is the wording on it? The OSSFs shall be prohibited and connected to a centralized wastewater system shall be required for all developments within the lake zoning area except single-family detached developments less than 20 total acres, regardless of individual lot size, or single-family detached developments with less than 20 standalone residential lots. So basically what that means, any developer that comes in that buys more than 20 acres or wants to put more than 20 lots on will have to put a packaged sewage system, sewage plant, and those generally run around $1 million. So for somebody to build 20 houses or 21 houses, they will have to spend $1 million on a package plant. I recommend for that whole section to be removed from the regulations. Also would like to note that in the Lake Comprehensive Plan meeting on April the 8th, 2022, number 6, page 39 of the Lake Comprehensive Plan, it actually states that suggestions that connect to a centralized sanitary sewage system be required based on lot size, not lot count within a development. Also, Lake Comprehensive Plan Water Quality Development Activity, page 91, states new residential development with lot sizes less than 1 acre should connect to a centralized sewer system. Those are in line with the city sewer regulations. The county regulations call that lot sizes of 1 acre may have an OSSF sewage facility, which is basically an aerobic system or a conventional system. And I would recommend that we stay in line with our county regulations.
Absolutely.
So that's what I would recommend to be removed from the regulations. What I would like to see to be added to the regulations is section 1.09 on the zoning violations. What was omitted was line 4. The property owner will be liable for all court costs. I know there was a lot of things, I think there were more typos, I'm assuming. Conditional development standards, amusement commercial outdoor standards, that should be allowed by specific use permit, that was omitted. 5, automobile or other motorized vehicle sales and service standards, allowed by specific use permit, was omitted. Heliport or helistop standards, allowed by specific use permit, was omitted. Outside storage standards, allowed by specific use permit, was omitted. I would recommend that all of those be added back in. And also 8.01, zoning amendments, the resubmittal of rezoning applications, which is 8.01G. 1, an application shall not submit a rezoning request if the same or similar rezoning request has been considered and adjudicated by the Commission's Court within the previous 6 months. I recommend for that to be submitted. Another thing that I would like to look at would be on the dimensional regulations chart. Not sure if you can find that in there. It should say at the bottom, page 31. These regulations are very much different from Bodart Lake, although I must admit I would like to see, it would be nice to see some of the setbacks in Bodart Lake be altered. But one of the things that concerns me the most is the front yard setbacks for the 3 acre, the 43,560 and the 21,700 square feet. All of those setbacks are 15 feet. I would just like to draw your attention to the fact that the subdivision regulations require 25 feet setback from the right-of-way from a county road and a 50-foot setback from a state highway or FM road. As most roads are supposed to be 60 feet wide, having a 15-foot setback, generally I was told to measure from the center of a county road because the property line goes to the center of a county road. So a 15-foot setback measured from the center of a county road would put somebody building in the ditch. So I would recommend that be amended to 50 feet. I do notice that different from the Bodart regulations in the dimensional chart, we have a 5 acre minimum in the Bodart Lake. Ralph Hole is 3 acres. We have a minimum of 30,000 square feet, I believe, for Bodart, and we have 2 different ones for Lake Ralph Hall. I don't know if you would like to come along with the boat out lake or like to remain the same. I believe that should be up for discussion.
It's not that you provided us enough detail. I think we've been made aware of the striking differences, and it would seem that we've been made aware of the striking differences, and it would seem that the differences impede development around the lake. This is Fannin County. I'm a Fannin County judge, and I'm a Fannin County person. And, you know, I want to work with the Upper Trinity. I want us to have a good relationship, but transparency is key to a good relationship. We can't take action on these today. My understanding is we need to go through a procedure of posting these things before we can act on them, and then we could, of course, share our views with the Commissioners Court.
So to make any amendments to the regulations, we would need to have a public hearing in both the, in this board and with Commissioners Court. And to make any changes to the zoning, we would have to have a public hearing and send out, mail out letters 20 feet around each property. I think that's quite doable.
Well, any discussion on those two agenda items, I think they're dovetailed and interlocked. And that discussion, I will extend that invite to the ladies and gentlemen, I guess the correct, we'll look at the correct terms, folks who are with us tonight. Any comments?
I'll make some comments.
Yes, sir.
Back on item 2, kind of speak back to item 2.
Microphone.
Hold it up, guys.
Okay. So speaking about item number 2, so Judge, first of all, appreciate you expressing your perspective on our relationship. I will say that we consider it good. We know there's always rough things to work through, but we certainly want to extend, we want to make sure we have a good relationship with the county. We worked very hard over the years to make sure that happens. And I'm sorry that you feel that it's not that way right now, but we definitely want to make sure we get there where we need to be, because we're going to be here for a long time. We're going to be here for a long time, so we got to work together. And there's no attempt here to go to do anything that's not helpful for Fannin County. We're doing a lot of improvements here, and we're investing a lot of money here for Fannin County. And so we try to be good neighbors, try to be good parts of the community. And it's never, it hasn't been our attempt or intent to, not be a good neighbor or a good partner in this lake. And so we've had years and years of building that relationship, and certainly if you feel that it's got some strains in it, then we certainly want to work to get that better, and then I commit to you we'll do that. So we'll set a meeting with you and the director, and we'll sit down and then talk through anything we need to talk through to make sure we're back on the same page with you. We don't want to be at odds. We're not at odds, and we had no issues with the original zoning. Looking a little bit on, let's see, I guess it's item 2 as far as the actual zoning of the lake. We don't really have any objection one way or another if it's zoned, not zoned, or zone lake operations, or whatever that might be. Our only objection, if you recall, was that it was be consistent around, it was not piecemeal at that time. So that was what really was we were trying to avoid at that time. I know you understood that, so we appreciated that compromise at that time to get things going forward. I know that it was something that the county wanted to get these regulations in place to address some of the things that were happening around the county to prevent, maybe some undesirable uses around the lake. I can assure you that the Upper Trinity is not here to do anything around the lake that's going to hurt water quality. We're not the ones. We're not the ones that are going to do those kind of things, obviously. So we've got a big investment to make sure we have good water, and all the things we're doing here. All the things we're doing here are to, protect water quality. Going to let's see, going to item number 5, there's a lot of discussion about changes and things that will be different from Boat Ark Lake or this lake, and I'll just say that, you know, there was a reason why you had these meetings, community meetings, is because these were the folks around in this 5,000-foot radius that looked at the lake and what they wanted that area. I'll defer to the commission here to talk about that, but I know that we don't, Opportunity doesn't, you know, whether agricultural lot's 5 acres or 10 acres, 3 acres, that's really up to you. I mean, we don't have any, it doesn't matter to us. I mean, that's the right way to say it. It does matter to us, but we don't have any qualm about it either way. Whether or not the acreages match exactly what they have or not, but that's really something that you folks here chose to go with, and that was the discussion through all those public hearings you went through. Again, Opportunity has, we're indifferent to that, size of lots, that sort of thing. We are interested though in making sure that we make sure that in the rush to develop property, we don't create a situation where, looking way down the road, you have a situation where you can't treat the sewage, and that sewage, ultimately these systems fail, and now you have sewage running to the lake. Now that is something you've got to be careful of. And so I know that right now it's fairly rural, but over time it will change. Over time it will get more urban. And when that happens, you want to make sure you have your infrastructure in place. It's just smart planning, have good infrastructure in place that will address those the sewage that comes off the homes that are there. So it's important to do that. And so the rest of the changes, I'm not sure. Again, we don't really have any, other than water quality, we don't really have any concerns or questions about all the things that I was talking about. Seems like it's just a matter of what the commission here is what they would recommend. And that's really it. I want to say in closing that we value the relationship we have with Fannin County. We've worked long and hard to establish that and maintain that. We look forward to continuing it. Just to let you know, we continue to make huge investments in things around the lake that will be good for Fannin County, good for the people. And whether it be, I'm thinking the paper you saw recently where there's a fishing jetty that we're working on. Working with Texas Parks and Wildlife, bring fish there. We've got a contract with an engineer at no cost to anybody here, county, or any of these water districts to investigate and look at all these water district infrastructure systems and see how we might help as far as, you know, the planning. And that's a very costly engineering project we've taken on. We told you about that before. We owe you an update on that, and we're getting those. We just had a conference call this morning with that engineer, and we are working forward to bring that. We'll be meeting with all the districts here this summer to further that effort. I'll also say that we have partnered with the Children's Museum over in Commerce for a fossil exhibit. I actually have some flyers, and you're all invited to the ribbon ceremony coming up on the 17th. I'll hand you all a press release and flyer on that, so that you're welcome to come to that, as well as Mr. Morris will tell the council as well. I sent an email in earlier today saying, hey, good. So you're all invited. We'd love to see you there. Judge, love to see you there. Commissioners, everybody here, including you. So, you know, these are just a couple of examples of the investment that Opportunity is making. These are things that are not necessarily required to bring the lake to fruition, but there are things we're trying to do. We realize we need to be good neighbors, and we are spending money to make these things happen. So, you know, there's a grant that we got, not we, but Parks and Wildlife got for that jetty. I can tell you that the cost to install that jetty, that does not cover the cost to install that jetty. It's far above for that what they provided, but we want to add to it, leverage it, make something good for the community here. So we're doing a lot of good things. So we've probably not doing a good job of communicating those with you. Certainly we want to be transparent. We don't really have anything to hide. We're building stuff. We've been very focused on late construction. You can imagine it's a very large contract, several large contracts. We've got a 32-mile pipeline. I just walked out of just met a property owner right before this, and so we're getting ready to work contracts on 32 miles of pipeline. So you can imagine with our small staff, we've been pretty focused on that. Very large contract and actually multiple contracts. Pump station, pipelines, connection points, bouncing reservoirs, all these contracts. So we apologize for not having to spend time, bringing you guys up to speed on this stuff. But in the end, I think when the lake's built, you see water getting there, then I think we'll be happy with what happens there. So again, I'll offer up to sort of sit down with you and with the executive director and have a meeting with you if that would help, for sure. So we're completely open. I mean,
I don't have a problem. I just come back, I think you go ahead and zone the area agricultural, and if you want to permit to do something.
We can't hear you, sir.
Yeah, my inclination is to zone the area agricultural. And if you want a permit to do something, you can come and present it to us, and we then will be involved in the process of deciding if it's good for the county.
Amen.
If it's good for the citizens around the lake.
That's right.
I think that's where we are. And, we're not going to treat you unfairly. If it makes sense, you'll get your zoning, you'll get your permits. But for you to come in, and I've got the map, and you've got peninsulas that are yours that aren't our citizens, you pick some pretty prime property, and then you zone it lake operations area, which in itself is a little bit reparations. That in itself is a little misleading, and that bothers me. And I'm afraid that's where we find ourselves. And you can come and present an argument to, when we consider how to zone this, you can come and bring an argument to this commission and go listen to what you got to say. And if it goes on, if something's recommended to commissioner's court, you can come to commissioner's court and tell us what you want to do and why. But I'm not into having backroom meetings.
I don't think anybody's suggesting backroom meetings, Judge. I think the items in the Lake Operations District, if I'm listening to the list, a lot of those things, campgrounds are things that, you might want that may not be allowed anywhere else. There might be a community center that, you might, I don't think if there's anything else there. I think most of those items matched up pretty much with that commercial zone there. Some of them, heliport, I know that the police may need something like that too. We don't need a heliport. I mean, that's something that maybe the police might need, so that's something that's in there. I mean, I think when you look at zoning, and you went through the Bodark Lake zoning already, and you try to learn from those mistakes. I think maybe that's what Freeze Nichols did a little bit, was as they brought that to you, there's going to be some things you learn, some lessons, and so you may want to implement some of those things. And so I think that maybe that's where some of those things came from. And so I think that, and I don't think that Bodark Lake had a ownership around the lake, like, the property of the lake was different. I think it's all zoned like the adjacent district was. I think that's how it worked out on that one. I am seeing now that as they come forward with the zoning request, that now you have multiple zonings along the shoreline, because the private owners don't own all the shoreline. There's going to be a gap in between there. It may or may not present you a problem in the future when you're trying to do stuff between the nice new developments you have and the shoreline itself. So sometimes that may be something to think about as well. But I think some of these things you see here may be some of the improvements you may have seen from the previous effort in zoning, and kind of you try to incorporate the good things you can and move forward. So I don't know, I just want to guess on that one. But I know there's some uses in there that we're trying to, allow for, like the peninsula talking about, marina. Of course, where's it going to be? It's going to be in the water. So you want to make sure you can do the things next to those areas. You're going to have campgrounds. Well, you got to have you want to go do that. If you don't want campgrounds, then it's not in the zoning. So you know, you gotta know what you can do. So, I think those items are pretty much to allow for things that you're gonna be pleased with, but that's fine. I mean, it's,
We're going to approve them as we go along.
We can't hear you.
We're going to, it's my desire that we approve them as we go along. You know, we're citizens here, and this is our county. And you're I don't want to say a guest, but you're, you know, you're from the Metroplex. You're putting water together primarily for the Metroplex, so I know that there's some rights running to the city of Ladonia for some water, but they could build a water plant to do that. I know you offered some of your wells. I'm not questioning your generosity. What I'm saying is you look like a commercial enterprise. It looks like Disneyland has come to our county and has decided that they're going to control a particular area. Our rights to zoning go to the water line. On the other side of the water line, you've got rights to do what you want to do. If you want to put in a marina, you need to line up with us. So we have some agreement as to where the marina is going to be, so we zone it appropriately. But we're citizens of this county, and the legislature has given us the right to zone to the shoreline, not to the edge of your property.
yes, sir, and I don't, nobody disputes that for sure. And we're, again, we don't have any objection to it. We're just, you know, the only objection came when there was a thought that there might kind of piecemeal it, which was going to be, wasn't going to work out well for all those reasons we've already stated, not to go over all that. But having said that, yes, sir, we understand the zoning down to we understand what the legislation says, and we've got no objection to that. And I think what we try to do is, you know, prepare in kind of a uniform type of approach. I know that Lake Operations District up there covers, you know, specific properties. You know, maybe that's what we look at. I don't know. I mean, we can sit down and look at it and try to figure out what the best plan is. I mean, you know, yeah, a lot of this area will remain pretty much natural for the most part, and you got a few areas will be publicly developed. I don't know if boat ramps are allowed, and is that going to require zoning to put a boat ramp in? If so, I guess let us know. I don't know. It's not doesn't require. I'm just trying to think what's required for zoning. I guess it's not a building necessarily, so I don't know. I mean, I guess we have to ask those questions later. If you want boat ramps, I guess, I mean, we've got a program to put in for sure. So we need to talk about, well, we've shown you where they're going to be, so there's no surprise in that. That's the big thing we have now.
Let's talk about what I'm asking. I've asked you for Freeze and Nichols to assist us in finishing the zoning.
We can't hear you, sir.
We've asked you to provide Freeze and Nichols back to us as a resource to finish zoning. I haven't got an answer on it. We've asked you to provide us within your lake operations area, people who you don't own their property. And I think when we had our initial meeting, we had people come forward and said, I haven't sold to the lake. My property is still mine. I don't want it in lake operations. That's disturbing. If I sit here and ask you today, I asked for a copy of the contract between you and Freeze and Nichols. I asked Daniel that. He said he wouldn't at liberty to provide it. I think you told him that you couldn't provide it.
No, I can
We
provide
got
it.
board approval. But I'm just telling you that if you're transparent, we're good partners. If you're not transparent, then what's the old saying? First time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. We're going to have some transparency.
Yes.
And I want to be buzzed. I want this thing to last for, 75 years till it silts in, however long that is. I want
Hope it lasts longer than that.
But I want this thing, I want to have a working relationship.
And we do too, we absolutely do, and we have no intention of not having that. We'll sit down when you do that contract if you want. I do know that Daniel's contract's been completely paid out. They expended all the funds we had on the contract, and it wasn't cheap. And so every time they come down and have a meeting, it costs money. And so I think the things we have left, it sounds like Di went through them pretty good. Those are things you track changes on zoning. If there's something different, then I'm not sure what, conducting public meetings, you guys do a pretty good job of that.
Now, I asked that these maps not be made yet because we weren't through. Daniel, you presented me the maps. And
Right.
we made it clear that we weren't through with zoning. And as far as the cost is concerned, I was involved to a certain extent in zoning around Bogart Lake. And we had many more meetings, on with meetings, but we finalized it. It took a long time. So you got off way on the cheap because we did this thing fast. And we did it fast for a very specific reason. But we'll try to get this thing done. I'm not trying to prevent you from building a levee. I just like to have some say in where it's going to be and how it's going to affect the county. And if you want to build it in a place that isn't convenient for the county, we may want to persuade you to put it in another location. That's our job as the city. And we want to have people who are going to be on the road that go to the levee, if they don't, use the wrong word.
Fishing, what is it? Fishing?
No, it's,
Jetty, thank you.
Jetty. If we have people who live on the road who go into the jetty, who have an objection to it, I want them to have a chance to object. You're not on call, you're part of mainland traffic, you're part of Fannin County.
I feel like that Upper Trinity and the Lake Operations District has a lot of autonomy to do what they want to do. And I feel like if we zone that in one way that favors the county, it allows Upper Trinity the same rights that our citizens have to request a zoning change. It puts them on the same playing ground as everybody else around here that live here and pay taxes on it. So I feel like that would be appropriate.
And if you want to come in and say, we want these areas as operation centers because we've got stuff here, you're not going to see pushback. But if you want to put a hotel in, and because it's operated by you, it's not, doesn't go into our tax base, that's problematic. And, I'm here to discuss the matter, and I tend to be, if I tend to be robust in my discussions, it doesn't mean I'm angry at anybody. But
I've heard you say many times that the discussion's good, so let's have a discussion.
As Bob Bowen used to say, when he's comptroller, we can disagree and be agreeable. And that's what, anybody else have something they would like to add?
I'm in agreement, be fair, both directions. Landowners, Upper Trinity, everybody is on the same page.
We got no problem with that, for sure. I mean, we were just, I think the original, the larger district was, we don't have all those plans made up, so we don't know. And it was just an easier way to have, the full area. So, I mean, that's fine, not a problem. I mean, we can sit down and come up with a plan that, we're not quite ready for that. We're still looking around at stuff, trying to, again, as I mentioned a while ago, we've got, we're a pretty small staff and building a pretty big lake. And so it's a little bit of herd and catch right now, so we're working on that. And when we get, I'm trying to think, when we get to the point where we can come up with some plans, sit down and identify those areas that we know around the 3 areas where the boat ramps are for sure. Those are going to be, public access points. I don't know what kind of zoning category you want for that, but is there a zoning category for that you would propose that?
I'll take a look.
Okay, something for public access or public uses, I don't know. So same thing with our, our headquarters facility over there. I mean, we know where that's at. That's a public facility that it's going to be a real nice, community facility when it's all done. So we know those 4 locations for sure.
Here's a $100 question that's been out there. We've asked it several times, and we've been told in a letter that we can have private boat docks, more or less, and I want to make sure that there's a commitment to allow that. It's troublesome that I can't get anything that's clear on
Judge,
that particular point.
Let me just say this, we wrote a letter to you in 2013, and then our board, the full board.
Adopted the letter, and the letter was vague.
The letter's pretty direct about, it says we will allow boat docks with, planning with the county. So I mean, it's pretty.
But private boat docks, it doesn't
Yeah.
say private boat docks, does it?
I don't know if it's with a private, just boat docks, I mean, it's gonna allow boat
Cities will have
docks.
to get a permit from Upper Trinity to do it.
Well, sure, I mean, you're gonna permit, I mean, any lake's gonna have a permit, didn't say, that's not the question, I mean, these things don't happen for, you know, it takes effort and all that, everything's permitted, right? So, that's not unusual, everybody's expecting that.
Here's the thing, if it's on your side of the water line and you want to, if somebody's gonna put a dock out in the water, you need a permit. I don't have a problem with that, but I want the person who's got property that adjoins your property line to be able to cross your property and have a boat dock.
Yeah, and
If
that's
not,
been,
you're choking off development, and you're gonna have an issue with this judge. You may not have an issue with Commissioner's Court, you may not have an issue with the next judge, but you're gonna have an issue with this judge.
yes, sir, and like I said, our board has already spoken on the issue, very much in support of that, and we stood by it, stood by the previous statements, and yes, there will be allowances for boat docks on the
Can you
lake,
say-
private,
can you say
public.
private boat docks?
Public, yeah, it's
Not
whatever.
private.
Private boat docks,
Can
yeah,
you say private boat docks?
private, yeah,
Okay, good.
private boat docks.
Could I ask?
In writing, who
Who
in
is
writing?
going to do the permitting on those?
We will do the permit on boat docks on our land, we'll do permitting, yes.
So on your water.
Thank you.
See, that's the thing though, I mean, landowner has to cross y'all's property to get to the boat dock. And there's nothing been real clear about what's happening on that.
I want to say the letter says there's going to be reasonable access across there. We do have a permit around the lake, requires certain things. You're not going to build a road down there. I don't think you need to do a boat arc. It's going to be, I envision it pretty similar. You have to get their permission also to come across their property to get to the edge of the water. So it's the same. I mean, it's similar. We haven't gone through the process yet, but, you know, we're making those provisions, so.
You know, I want to make Ms. Hopkins' job or the next director's job as easy as possible by having the harmonization between the regulations on both lakes. And I think we've made that clear. I've tried to make it clear from the beginning. That's one of the things we expect. We don't need to have two different sets of people administering the zoning around the lakes. I can have variances, acreage doesn't bother me, but some of these other things where you're getting into the technical stuff that isn't benefiting anybody but is cramping development, that's problematic. But
As long as water quality is protected, we're good with that. So I think that's our consideration. Now, you know, this zoning board can talk about that zoning board if you want to have one. That's a county thing. It's not us. So I think that's the local citizens here who need to decide that.
I communicated that to Freeze and Nichols, and when I finally have time to sit down after we do a rush order on this thing, I found out that that's not the way it is, and that's bothersome for me. But all that said, let's move forward. We are where we're at. You know, I think every action, there's a consequence. And we're going through the consequences of our failed relationship, and we need to reestablish that relationship. You know, and Mr. Chanley, you represent your board, so I don't have any issue with you personally. But with that said, any further discussion?
Well, if I can say one more thing,
Yes,
Judge,
sir.
I feel differently in terms of failed relationship. We don't have a failed relationship. Certainly, we have the ability to, like you've said many times, we have the ability to discuss things, and we're open to discussing it to make sure we answer your concerns and questions, and we will make sure we get it right. So that's where we are. We would not characterize that as a failed relationship. We would say, you know, sometimes you got to work on it, get that, but it's not failed.
I think we can work it out, it's just gonna take both sides.
I agree.
Okay, thank you for your comments,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chanley.
Thank you so much.
I think we've got somebody else who's got some comments. Would you like to step forward? State your name, please, and if you'll sign the piece of paper up there, is it,
It's an agenda. Oh, there we go.
you'll sign it and put down your address, if you would.
All right. My name is David Culler. I am a real estate broker here in Bannock County, have been for a while. And I have worked with a lot of the Bodart developers up there that have bought a good portion of that property and are developing it. Well, actually, the first big sale is coming up on May 20th on a development that's up there that I actually sold the raw land for. And I've been at this about 25 years doing various things. I've been in home building, I've been in development itself. Sold quite a bit of land. I own property. I own, until recently owned some property right up here on Ralph Hall itself. And I own property in Fannin County still, quite a bit. And I can tell you on the septic system, that is particularly worrisome to me, and the sewer issue, because the type of developers that come around and do lake lots with 1 to 3 acre lots are not going to put in those sewer systems. And that is going to destroy a lot of the property value of the people who own land right around the lake or that's right for development. I know that there is some concern about water, sewage water getting into the lake. And as you know, aerobic systems are now pretty much required. That water that is sprayed out of aerobic systems now is potable water. It is not water that would be, it's not like the old septic systems. So I'm sure as each one of those has to be approved, that you'd be looking at either an aerobic system, or if it's close enough to the water to be a big concern, they could even go with what's called a low pressure dosing system. And we're requiring a full acre for a septic system, which is pretty much in line with the rest of the state. I understand Grayson County just allowed them to go to a half acre for a septic system. So I don't believe that that is legitimate. I agree with Di that we need to be in line with the rest of the county. And that's basically the big thing I wanted to say. I think that is an attempt to keep people out of here and then squash development. That's all it is, and it's all it could be. And I've got clients I've sold probably close to 1,000 acres lakefront around here in the last 3 years, mainly to developers and investors. And I can tell you I've got some people who would be quite upset if they get that, if that happens. That's number one. Number two, I would urge you, and I was here 6 or 8 months ago and came in, and I urged you at the time, we've got to have a shoreline management plan before we start zoning. We need to see what the shoreline management plan is, and we have yet to see it that I know of. And I think we need to see a shoreline management plan, and I would urge you, whatever you do, don't let control of that shoreline go away. And just like you're talking about, I agree with you, Judge. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have a comment? Well, with that said, it's been a long day. We've been working on the, Commissioner Magnus and I have been working on county budget all day long. And this is happier than budgets at this time of year. We had a little bit of a shortfall, about $1.3 million in revenue, and we're adjusting to that. It resulted in some calculations that were done last year by appraisers. They left something on the tax rolls that should have come off. So we've got a lot of opportunity, and I consider this an opportunity. And I want to thank y'all for your participation. And I was afraid when I first came here that Ladonia's spirit had dwindled because it hadn't filled up yet, and I see we filled up again. So I'm glad you guys are concerned about your community's future. With that said, our next item is agenda item number 6, discussion and consideration action to set the next Lake Ralph Hall Zoning Commission hearing and or meeting for June 8th, 2023. Any discussion on that issue?
I'd make a motion that we set the meeting, our next meeting for June 8th, 2023.
All right. Commissioner Magnus has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Same time.
Morris has made a second. With that said, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mr. Commissioner Magnus.
Aye.
Mr. Wallace.
Aye.
The judge, I guess the chair says aye. Motion passes. Move on to agenda item number 7. Next Tuesday, we've got 41 agenda items in Commissioners Court, so this is a good deal. I'd like a motion to adjourn the public meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Commissioner Wallace.
Aye.
We have a second from, well, excuse me, Mr. Wallace. Commissioner Magnus, he seconded it. Any questions? I'm assuming there's none. Those in favor say aye, those opposed say nay. Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Commissioner Magnus?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And chair says aye. So, motion passes, we're adjourned, and we are adjourned at 6:25. Thank you all.